What's up, everybody? Hey, I would challenge you to find a more interesting guest than what I have. This one's unique. Okay, so who it is? So Mike Henninger, who is the CEO, founder of Basement Brewed Fantasy Football, the pride of UW Milwaukee. He is going to share his story with us. I think you're going to find it to be intriguing. I know I've just hit the surface. But Mikey, I'm ready to go in. In fact, you go by Mikey or Mike?
So I go by Mikey, and that's by design because there's a million Mikes, there's a million Michaels, there's not too many grown ass men that intentionally go by Mikey, and I'm told that fits my aura, my
Yeah, that
personality.
fits your deal, man. You go by Mikey. I mean, take that back. All right, Mikey's with us. All right, man. But good stuff. Well, look, you know, I suck at the intro, and I'm pretty sure that was on par. So that, I apologize for that, right?
Good
Um,
man.
so look, you came across, like a lot of people I talked to, like on my LinkedIn, and I think I hit, you know, I don't know if you know or not, but I won my fantasy football league this year, and just going to throw it out there, okay?
Nice, love it.
And you commented on or something of that nature, and then I'm like, well, what is this? And I started clicking around, and you have the heat map, and you got stuff
Yeah.
like, what do you have going on, man? Like, what is your business?
Oh man, yeah, it's a good question, and it's still one that I'm still less than a year into being an entrepreneur, so it's still one that I'm like, how do I button this up? How do I explain it when people ask what that is? But the
Yeah.
the the elevator pitch, if you will, the long story cut super short, is I sell all of my research, my resources, and a online community to fantasy football players, and it ranges from beginners that have never played to people that are playing in like $100 DFS entries every single week. So it totally ranges. But yeah, what you're talking about, the heat map, that's kind of the bread and butter tool that got this whole thing started many years ago when I started putting it on Reddit. But yeah, anybody who plays fantasy football, that's my kind of person, especially the ones that are winning their fantasy football league.
Now yeah, and for the record, I'm 52 years old. I've been playing for X amount of years. I've never won. I hung up one banner in my entire life, right? So just for the record, I don't win. So maybe I do need to head down this road. But
Yeah,
so let's go back. Let's go like way back. Like,
yeah,
let's,
yeah.
let's go back when you first started this. Now, I was reading on LinkedIn about how you did the pencil thing as a kid and you kind
Oh
of,
wow.
right? Like you had
Yeah.
this idea like way back, man. Like how far back are we going here?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends, dude. Football in general. Well, baseball was my first love, believe it or not, but it didn't take long for football to come next. And once it clicked for me with football, it was basically all over for the rest of my life. Yeah, that story that you're talking about, I loved football so much that way back when I was like 7, 8 years old, I had all 30 at the time. It was 30 teams. It wasn't 32. And I would just grab two random pencils, right? Browns, Bengals, and I would just close my eyes and spin them in my hands and drop one. And whoever I dropped was the losing team. And I would keep standings like, all right, Browns are 9-6 now. So, and I would go through Super Bowl anyway. So all of this goes way, 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 way back. And then once I tried fantasy football for the first time in 2000, or not in 2000, 2006, I was 18 years old. It was all over. It was all over from there. It kind of like set the tone for the rest of my life. And eventually it turned into my career.
Now, all right, so you're in fantasy football, like we all are, and we're doing, it's Sunday morning real quick. We watch Shefty on TV about who's starting, right? Okay, check it real quick, got it, right?
Yep.
When does it take a new turn? Like, when do you start this research and you go to Reddit and people are like, hey, man, can I use your stuff? Like, when does that occur?
Yeah. So that whole thing started. I started doing my own research and my own analysis, not for anybody else except for myself. And that had to be about 7 or 8 years ago that I started doing that. Up to that point, what I was doing was paying for subscriptions to other people's sites, rankings, projections, right? There's other companies
Yeah,
out there that sell,
yeah,
here's my list of guys and the order of which I would use them. And don't get me wrong, there's definitely a place for that, and I appreciate that. But for me, I was struggling with those linear lists never telling the full story. It never said why player A was on top of player B. It didn't talk about the weather. It didn't talk about matchups versus certain cornerbacks or certain defensive lines or anything like that. So I got to a point where I was like, I'll just do it myself. And I would spend 20 plus hours every single week, just like on the side as my hobby, like just creating spreadsheets and all these algorithms and formulas and just going in team by, Patriots, Dolphins, Bills, Jets. And I would find, this defense is weak against this position in these conditions. And eventually that culminated in one product that became the heat map, if you will. And I showed that to one of my buddies once because he's like, what are you doing every Sunday that you're making some of these? Because I would make some kind of bizarre calls. I would leave some stars on the bench at times and put in some random guys. He's like, what are you doing making all these random calls? And I showed this thing to him and he goes, dude, you have to put this thing on Reddit. So I put it on Reddit about 2 or 3 years ago and it kind of blew up. People started using it over there. All of a sudden I had people like asking me for my Venmo so that they could donate money to use it every week. And that was when the light bulb went off for me that like, oh my God, this is a thing. Like this is something that I can turn into a business and use. So, March of 2022 last year, I quit my job. I quit 10 years of B2B sales and I just dove all into this thing, trying to build a business with it. So far it's going well, but we got a long way to go before it's permanent.
No, I hear you, but I want to dissect that. Yeah, hey, we dove in because of and you've been public of, hey, there's a family here. Like today's post was, your support and your wife's support and all that. So take me back, like you started in March of 2022. Okay,
Yeah.
let's go back to February or even like January, right?
Yeah.
You're like, all right, here's my resignation letter. Okay, like, are we hitting this button? Right, or how's the conversation start with your wife,
Yep.
right? Who's like, hey, hon,
Yep.
thinking about doing the old, quitting corporate thing and doing the whole fancy, like, how does that go down?
Oh man. And I'm not saying this because everything's recording and I'm saying the things you're supposed to say. Like that, I have been so lucky and I've been, I don't want to use, everybody uses the word blessed, but it really has been
I knew that was coming. I knew that word was going to be there eventually. I got you.
it is. I mean, it really is just the way that she's been, and she's been my number one cheerleader from day one. And it was the sort of thing where I had already been doing it for about a year, but on the side, right? I would work my 9 to 5 and then put the kids to bed and then come down in the basement until 1 in the morning and do my thing. And that was exhausting, right? So it was eventually we knew it was going to come to a spot where it was like, I'm either doing this or I'm doing that, and I can't
Yeah.
do both forever. And she knew at the time, right? This was back in February. She knew that, I was putting in the work, I was collecting the paycheck, everything was going well, but I wasn't waking up like, man, I love doing this. It wasn't giving me energy. It wasn't something I was passionate about. It was just something that was paying the bills for us. And actually the all in moment, it was pretty funny. We were on spring break and we were at just this like rinky dink water park in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. And my son he's a very kind soul and a very nice kid, but he's kind of a chicken when it comes to stuff. Like he gets really scared really easily, right? And eventually he's like, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go down this water slide. So we climb all these stairs to get all the way up to the top of the water slide. And he takes one look in and it's pitch black. And he goes, nope, not doing it. Not doing this water slide. No chance. And I kind of like, grabbed onto his shoulders and I was like, Decker, and I said to him, sometimes the toughest, sometimes the most important thing that you can do in your entire life is the thing that seems the most difficult and the scariest thing that you can do in your entire life. And the second those words left my mouth, like a light bulb went off in my head and I'm like, holy shit, I don't even know if I'm talking to him. I might be talking to myself here. So anyway, he did not take my advice. He did not go down the water slide. We had to walk all the way down the stairs, but I took my advice. And literally the next day I turned in my resignation letter.
Really?
And yeah, my wife, she was the one when I told her, I was like, honey, I'm thinking about trying to do this full time. And she said something along the lines of, you have to, because the financial stuff, we'll figure that out. Like we can fix whatever that is. Worst case scenario, you get another sales job. Like we'll figure that part out. What we can't fix is you being on your deathbed in your 90s, hopefully 90s, hundreds, whatever, and just looking back and thinking, man, I wish I would have tried because I had a chance, right? And we knew I had a chance from people donating from Reddit. Like there's a social proof there. You know, she knew that there was something there to go all in on. So we didn't go all in with a blind hand. We had an ace and a king in our hand, and then we decided to go all in from there, if you will.
Yeah,
so,
you had you tested the market pretty much. I mean, you went and said, hey, wait a second.
Yeah.
Right. And now you knew, and then all of a sudden you go in. Okay, so you hand in the resignation, you come off, and I saw, man, you did the thing, right? You were in team leads and your path is heading up. Like, I mean, it wasn't like you're like, oh, whatever, this isn't working. So I was, you were heading up, right? And now you head in. Okay, so now it's day one. So now we wake up at like, I don't know. I mean, with small kids, don't get me wrong, you're probably up at like some, crazy, hour. And by the way, as you get older, you tend to wake up that way anyway. So it's like this window you're in right now, like enjoy it. Because pretty soon you just wake up for the hell of it, right? Like me, So
I don't doubt it.
When you wake up and you're like, all right, I now am the CEO. Did you ever have this like, oh my God, like what did I do? Or was it get the work time on like website and marketing and all the fun stuff?
It was never scary. It was always really, really exciting as well as overwhelming. I will say the quickest lesson I learned from doing it is how much I did not know about being an entrepreneur and running a business. Like there is so much just stuff. Like that's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
That you just don't, you could never in your wildest dreams think of or imagine going into it. As prepared as you might think you are, man, there's just so much stuff like terms and conditions for your website and finding a lawyer for that, finding somebody who's actually good with that sort of thing, understands your business, how much money it's going to cost. So it was never the sort of thing that was like, oh God, what did I do? But it was definitely the sort of thing like, okay, I want to get to, writing about Russell Wilson going to the Denver Broncos. I don't want to be talking about terms and conditions for my website, that sort of thing. So there were definitely, I mean, when I think about where I'm at now versus a year back, it's just night and day difference. And I'm not even close, right? I'm probably like 1% down the road of like mastering the entrepreneurial thing, but I'm certainly a lot further than I was 12 months ago. I had never been a business owner before. I had never started anything before. I had just created a tool, put it on Reddit, and collected, donations if people wanted to. Now it's like, okay, you got to worry about accounting and keeping receipts for everything and taxes and terms and conditions, legal, marketing. You got to be careful about using NFL logos and colors in a way that the NFL can sue you for if you don't. But anyway, there's just a lot of stuff that I was like, I just want to write about Russell Wilson going to the Broncos, So
yeah, anyway. No, I get you. Is there any advice you'd give and say, all right, someone listening is going to do either a side hustle that's going to be, we say side hustle like it's a car wash on like, hold the sign up. Side hustles, 10, 15, 20 grand, right? I mean, it's legit money that the US government, kind of want their taxes on, right? So what is there any advice that you would give someone out there saying, hey, I'm starting a business or I'm starting a side hustle? Like, hey, man, read this, do this, study this. Is there anything that you would point them in that direction?
I don't know if this answers your question. I would say one of my biggest mistakes that I made when I got started is like a shiny squirrel syndrome. Like on Monday, I was, okay, let's get the T's and C's of the website. And then something on Monday would pop up where it's like, oh, we should sell t-shirts. And I was like, okay, let's go sell t-shirts. And then all of a sudden it's like, what else? What can we work into our off-season material? So I was just at a spot last year where it was like I was trying to do way too much at once as opposed to focusing on 3 to 5 things and knocking those out before I moved on to anything else. So I would say I would give advice to anybody who's starting at side hustles, keep it simple. Like I don't know if you follow Justin Welsh on LinkedIn.
Oh, yeah.
His whole thing is all about like just simple is better than creative or crafty or however it is that he phrased it. But that's something that I would caution any entrepreneur, anybody that's diving into something that's brand new, is like keep it simple. And the other thing is ask for help. Like there are a lot of people who have done this before you, and they have been down this road. They've encountered problems that you don't even know are going to be on your path. So don't be shy about asking for help. And if there's one thing that the internet is very, very good for, it's finding your people, finding people that encourage you and support you and can help you and understand the path that you've been on. The last 12 months, I've met so many amazing people, Dave, that have been relentlessly helpful about everything from accounting to legal to just, business strategy. It's find people that know what they're doing, find people that can support and back you up, and then ask them for help, especially in areas that they're strong in, that you're not strong. And I have plenty of those areas where I know I'm just not good, like anything design or creative, anything like that. That's not me.
I see the sweatshirt you're wearing, man. I'm getting me one of those before this is done. I'm ordering one of those when this is done. Don't worry. But like, and you went where I was going actually. So I mean, good segue for me. I was going to say, hey, who have you looked to as a mentor? Who have you followed online to read their stuff, or who have you reached out to in person and saying, hey, can I spend 20 minutes with you? Right? Like, is there anything there that, or any group of people, or like, certain people? I'm sure there's a list of, and you don't want to leave anybody out, but just a few that come to mind though.
Yeah, there's several, and all of them are on LinkedIn. And I know you're obviously very active on LinkedIn, Dave. That's how you and I came to know each other. So and these are people that I'd recommend following left and right. So there's Jackie Hermes, who was my former boss.
Really?
At CEO over at Excelity. She's who I worked with before I started doing this.
Yep.
I learned an insane amount from her when working with her, before working with her, after working with her. So
amazing.
I would very much highly encourage anybody to follow her. Devin Santa Maria. We just reached an agreement yesterday. He's going to be redoing my entire website. And the reason that I selected him to redo my entire website, well, for starters, he helped me how you see this on LinkedIn all the time, help people, like give back, provide value, don't expect anything in return. Last year when I was getting started, the guy jumped in and created a landing page for me without asking for a single penny in return. So that stuff like that goes a long way. But also in this 2-hour chat that we had yesterday, we talked more about like business strategy and strategy with the website, as opposed to like, oh, here's how we're going to create a pretty web page and how it's going to convert and stuff like that. We talked about, stuff that impacts the bottom line. So it's very clear that Devin has a sense of not just how to do a website, but how to take your business to the next level using the website as a funnel. Nice. Amy Burks, I had a conversation with Amy Burks. If you're connected with her, I won this like giveaway thing where I got to do a 90-minute power hour with her. And like, I left that meeting with her and my head just exploded, almost like it was almost too good of a meeting, where I do have shiny squirrel syndrome. And I had to like, okay, which of these things should I do now versus like put on the back burner? But I came away with 4 pages of just, oh my God, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. That's a great idea. I need to do that right now. So Amy Burks needs to be followed by anybody, not just entrepreneurs. And the last person that I'll mention is Andrew Metz. Andrew Metz is somebody that I worked for at Zywave. He creates some solid content on LinkedIn. I think he took a little bit of a break for it as things got a little bit busy at Zywave, which is a software insurtech company. But I worked with him for several years at Zywave. He kind of became somewhat of a life coach, if you will, for me. Not just, like even when I was working with him as a BDR, he was talking to me about saving money and where to save money and how to save money. And I'm a 24-year-old kid that wants to go spend his money, and so
right.
He's been just amazing with everything that I've done. Even when I quit Zywave to go to Excelity, and when I quit Excelity to start my new business, there was one day last year he called me. He was in the car on his way to Chicago, and he's like the VP of sales over at Zywave. So he's a busy guy. There's a million people he could call. And he even says, he gets me on the phone. He's like, he calls me Henny. Henny, there's a million people that I need to call right now, but I had to call you and figure out what's going on with this fantasy football thing, man. This is awesome. Fill me in. I was thinking about you. He was like, you're an inspiration to me. And I'm like, dude, you're an inspiration to me. What is, so anyway, and I'd say those 4 people, Andrew Metz, Amy Burks, Jackie Hermes. I already forgot the other one that I
Don't
talked to.
ask me.
Yeah,
I was writing a few down for you,
yeah,
but
they're
then it's amazing that you said that, people and like the, like Jackie, and for, last gentleman you mentioned, right, is Highway, that they're still with you,
yeah.
right? And I think to me that shows a little bit of kind of the impact you've had, in that they're still helping you, way beyond the time, you're with them, and it's a testament to them. I also think it's a testament to you, right? In that I think that if you're a good person, people are going to help you, and you come as a, source of, yeah, hey, look, I don't know, can you help me? And I think that's a very powerful statement of, can you help me, is, it's always been something I've used. I'm like, I have no idea.
Sure.
Is there something, can you help me with this?
Yeah, 100%. And I've always that's kind of always been one of my things when I was in sales for so long that a lot of my sales managers tried to fix because they thought it was like a lack of confidence thing. But to me, I just kind of leaned into the I'm just Mikey. I'm just this goofy guy. I don't know this. It's not my strength, but I know who to talk to. I know how to get the answers. I know how to figure out what you're looking
Mm-hmm.
for, sort of thing. And I
Mm-hmm.
kind of leaned into that like
Mm-hmm.
average sales guy sort of look. But no, I definitely appreciate what you said, and yeah, it's definitely a testament to those to all of them because they've been right. It would have been easy for me to like quit and them to be like, oh, too bad, so
Yeah.
sad, see you later. But no,
Yeah.
they've been nothing but supportive and helpful, and I can't thank them enough for helping me get to this point. And they're absolutely going to be a part of the next several chapters, whatever those chapters be.
I mean, if I'm listening to this, I'm just taking away how important your network is.
Oh yeah,
How important are the people that, I mean, you left one company and went to the next, and you left on great terms, and you gave it your all there, and you stayed in contact with them, and now years and years and years later, you now have a person in your corner that you can turn to, and maybe you go to Jackie and go, Jackie, I know you're not good at this, but who in your network could help me, right? And
and
that's
not
amazing to have.
and not only that, it happens proactively. Jackie just reached out to me last week with somebody. It didn't really have anything to do with Basement Brood Fantasy Football, but it was somebody who was looking for some guidance on some sales acumen, and she thought of me. She said, "Let me introduce you." So, yeah, man,
Nice.
your network is in this era, in this age of the internet, it's arguably like the most important thing you can do for your business, or even if you
Yep.
don't have a business and you're just an up and coming professional, like I say all the time, if I could go back and do anything different from when I was in my early 20s, it was like
Yep.
posting on LinkedIn every day, interacting with people on LinkedIn for 30 to 60 minutes every single day. I think that's huge. But I talk about this all the time, and just, if the internet's good for anything, it's finding your circle and finding your people, find like building this great network, and then just
Yeah.
you're totally in control, and you have the power to be relentlessly selective about who you let into your circle, and frankly, candidly, who you let out of your circle if they're not, helping, not necessarily helping you, but if they're dragging you down, if they're not good for you as a person, maybe whether it's like toxic or whatever it is. Like, people have people in their lives that might not be good for them. I mean, if the internet's good for anything, it's good for helping you be relentless about who you let in and let out of your circle.
On every podcast, I tell everybody, and I go, I'm always looking for that 45 seconds where, if you don't listen to the show, and look, if you're listening, please tell somebody. But if not, I always put like 45 seconds up on LinkedIn, and I go, look, this is a key part. And I always listen to this back. I say the word right about 122 times, and I always look at that like 45 seconds, and I go, what can I show folks?
Sure.
That's it right there. Right. There it is. It is that 45 seconds, I think, is really, it boils down to it. And I've seen it, in, let's say, the last 3 years of my life, even as I get a little bit more experience, is the word, in
Sure.
terms, right. It's still important. I think learning that at a younger age, early in your career, super important, to be really your successful in your potential. But you also have, let's talk about that life thing. I'm going to switch gears a little bit with you.
Yeah, yeah.
So family super supportive. And you said, hey, you mentioned your son. I know you got another one there as well that keeps you busy, right? But you're now just starting a career. We have mortgage, we have the bills, we have to, it costs money to go to the water park, right? All this stuff that I mean, the hat collection, we got to buy more hats, right? So, what, and balancing that and balancing the time, because now it's you. If the marketing, the TNCs and all, and the accounting doesn't work, man, it's, I mean, that bottom line's you. So how do you balance that with hours in the day, but still being dad to the, two little ones out there? And, oh, by the way, husband, and, and the friend, and, everything else.
It's not easy. I think for starters, it's grace from the family, understanding and grace that there's times where Dada has to be working, and hubby, if you will, has to be working, and my wife, of course, understands that a little bit better than my kids do, right? Especially because I work from home. Currently, they are upstairs doing God knows what. I don't know if you can hear that.
I can't, and trust me, look, man, when they get older, they're not going to be home, and you wish they were.
I know.
They're going to come in and grab your ATM card for gas money. And they're going to bring over friends who you're like, who is that person? And why are you talking to my daughter? Right. So, just trust me when you go, I want them upstairs making noise. Okay. That's it. It's a good thing.
I believe it. I do believe it. I mean, even now with my kid being 6, I look at, videos from when he was 2 and I'm like, oh man, look at it. I miss when he was 2. But yeah. So, I mean, for them, it's a little bit trickier, right? Because they know dad's in the basement and they don't really understand why they can't be in the basement if I'm down here. And of course they can when I'm writing. But for me, and listen, we were talking a little bit earlier about like, I'm not good at this or acknowledging our weaknesses. For me, I've been pretty terrible as it pertains to routine, because I have shiny squirrel syndrome, where I'm like, I haven't been good to like, okay, at this time I do this, at this time I do this. But lately, because that has been something I'm trying to get better at, I have been finding success with, I've almost been working like shifts where I'm getting up 2 hours before my kids usually get up. That gives me time to kind of get working on social media a little bit. I like to start my day. I think it's really important to be active on LinkedIn every single day, for, a long-term marketing standpoint. But get some coffee in before they wake up. Get in some social media. But then when they wake up, then it's work goes away and it becomes dad time, because I have to get their breakfast, I have to get their snacks and their lunches ready and all that. But once I get my son on the bus at 8 a.m, then I have about 6.5 hours of hard, dedicated, focused work. Usually, though, I've been on this big health thing lately after getting a scare from my doctor a couple months ago, telling me like, you need to make some changes. So I have to fit workout into there, which is kind of making it feel like I'm not getting as much done in my day as I would like to. But then anyway, I have until about 3 o'clock till the wife and kids come home. And then I purposely, usually from about 5 to 7 p.m., I put my phone in my bedroom. Like I can't even be near it. I put my computer in my bedroom so that from 5 to 7, even though it's a 2-hour window, they have 100% of dad. There's no distractions, and we do whatever they want. If they want to play with toys, which is like, God, I really don't want to play with toys right now, but if you want to play with toys, that's what you want to do. But when they go back down, then it's either, hanging out with the wife and just watching Netflix while we wind down, or sometimes, during the football season, I need to come back down and keep working on the heat map, for example. So it's the sort of thing where my life just kind of goes in shifts throughout the day, right? It's like work, dad, work, husband, dad, work, husband, so it's kind of working, but it's a work in progress, if you will.
It's man, I'm different than that. I don't have, it almost sounds like a heat map, right? Almost sounds like you're blending and you're solo and all that. I have a little bit easier. I just lock myself in my room and I should get out more, right? And, in terms of that, but I too have that doctor thing. Trust me, do it. Again, things you learn younger that it will help you when you get older. And I'd say right there, routine, workout, eat it, man, just do it. Whole lot easier.
You got to fit it in. And anybody who says they're too busy, I feel that,
Yeah.
because I go to bed every day thinking I didn't do enough for my business. But as my wife likes to remind me, if I don't take these health changes seriously, I won't have a business to run because I won't be around,
No,
So
trust me, I've been on that. We're at 22 years. And I remember, I mean, I've been public about this. I'm telling you,
yeah.
she grabbed my hand and twisted it once as we're sitting in the ER. And she's like, if you ever do this to me again, literally, you're
Mhm.
gonna have me to deal with. I'm like, all right, sounds good. I'm like, all right, and being a Yankee fan and from New York, you understand. Like it's pretty much it's go time. You get
Yeah.
told that, you're like, all right,
Yep,
so
there's so many people out there that say you can't show up for anybody else if you don't show up for yourself
yeah,
first,
yeah.
and I think that's a prime example of it. If you're not taking care of yourself, that like you said with your wife, like if you ever do this to me again, if the health thing doesn't kill you, then I will,
Pretty
because
much. I mean,
what I
that's
mean.
pretty much what it was. And I'm like, all right, sounds good. Like I know the look. I mean, that was it. And it was,
Mhm.
and from then on, it's been good. But
Right.
I got it, and you know what? Rightfully so. And I
Yep.
needed that in my life, and she supported it, and it's been there. Okay, so let's get into your world right here. Now,
Yep.
look, I'm gonna, let's get into some freebies here.
Okay.
Okay, so
Yeah.
as you get into this for next year, who are some stars? And if you haven't done the research yet, just tell me.
Mhm.
Who are some folks out of college that you think are like, hey man, who's coming out that could make a splash in the fantasy?
Got it. So this is the spot where I will gladly defer to my weakness, and this is the most surprising thing that people learn about me when they know how much I love football. I am not at all a college football guy. So
Wow.
it's all now. Here's the other thing though. Sometimes that actually works out really well in my favor, because when I do get around to creating my dynasty material around rookies, it's pretty much data focused. It's stats driven. So there's
Yeah, it's
no.
not the guy you saw on TV and you
Yep.
just like him because it's in the
Yep.
favorite color.
100%. There's no film that's like,
Yeah.
and film's a good thing, but it's not like media's talking about this guy, analysts are talking about this guy, because I don't
Huh.
pay attention to it. So to me, it's all data and focus. Now the problem is I haven't dug into that data yet. All I know so far is that Bijan, I don't even know if that's how you pronounce it, Bijan from Texas.
Yeah.
That's the guy. That's like the number one running back that we're going after this year. That's all I know so far.
Yeah, I want no part of my Eagles going after a first round running back. If that happens, I literally may DM you on LinkedIn and go, oh, okay, the entire city of Philadelphia right now is like grumbling right now. I feel for the guy, right? So I hopefully that's not the case. Who do you like next year? Who's your team next year? I mean, I know who the betting favorite is. I mean, obviously, Patrick and his world, right? But
Yeah. Yeah, man.
who do
I
you
don't know.
like?
That's a good. I mean, I gotta say Packers, right? Go Pack. But
Well, I was going to say, I mean that's going into like my Aaron Rodgers and where he's going to end up, and is he going to be in the Jets? But who's your team next year? Yeah, Pack. I mean, I
it's
have no idea what Packers are going to do, but if it's not the Packers, I'll take that out of it for a second because
it's not the
God
Packers.
forbid you say anybody but the Packers right now. But the entire nation would come, the Packer nation would find you, right?
Yeah,
But
for sure.
you
It's
know,
not, and I'm not. I won't hide. I'm not. I won't hide from it. It's not the Packers. There. It's just not. The Eagles are too good. Jalen Hurts is too like from the NFC. It's got to be if Philly, San Francisco is always going to. As long as Shanahan's there, San Francisco is going to be a problem always. So as far as I'm concerned, from the NFC, it's probably just those two. AFC football fans are in for a treat for the next decade, right? Because it's Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes for the next, and then you got Justin Herbert, right? Russell Wilson should rebound here with Sean Payton. So the AFC is just going to be it's going to be a ton of fun and then you still got Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson. Like the AFC is just going to be a blast. I have to think at some point Buffalo gets over the hump. So if I have to take somebody, I think I'm going to go back to Buffalo because I can't see them. I can't see them going this whole like Dan Marino thing where Josh Allen doesn't get a Super Bowl sooner than late. It's got to be. It has to happen at some point. So if I
yeah.
had to pick somebody, I would probably take Buffalo, probably because a lot of people are coming off of that train with their their letdown in the playoffs here. But they got to get over that hump at some point. So maybe 2023 will be it.
So we got a San Fran Eagles, 50-50.
Mhm.
Buffalo takes it from the end and there, huh?
Yeah, I mean the NFC, it's ugly. I'm looking at my board
It's
here
not
to make
that ugly. I mean, come on, man. I mean, it's not that ugly,
compared to the
right? I mean,
AFC.
Dak Prescott is
Yeah,
good.
it's fine.
He's
It's
fine.
fine. It's fine.
It's fine. Cowboy fans, I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not even I'm actually a Dak Prescott, believer,
I
right? I
am
mean,
too. I do believe. I don't think they should be looking for a quarterback. I'll say that. I think Dak is the guy. No doubt about it. I just can't. When it comes to comparing him to Jalen Hurts and everybody that's in the AFC, I just he'd be lower on that list. In the
oh yeah. No,
NFC,
I think I'd
he's
agree with that.
I think
Well,
he's
look,
top three in the
that's okay.
NFC.
Look, Niners, Eagles, take your pick.
Yeah,
Facing Buffalo, and then who wins it? I mean, I can't let you go without who wins. I mean, who wins that game then?
I'll just go with Buffalo.
Yeah, people
Buffalo.
jumping through tables for the next year, right? I mean, it's the weirdest
Something.
tradition. It's the
Oh
weirdest
man,
thing I've ever seen.
I would be, what would be really fascinating from a fan standpoint is Philly versus Buffalo because you'll either have
No,
people jumping through tables or people burning down a city.
no, no, no. We don't want any. No, see, that can't happen. The NFL gods will not allow it to happen. It's just, there'd be too much. Too much of security would be needed to really enjoy the
Yeah,
game at that point of time. So
I
no,
will.
no.
I will say two up and coming teams that I don't
Mm.
want to say are up and coming teams. The Chicago Bears are going to be a problem for the next decade, big time. Justin Fields is it. He's the guy. And Detroit, man. I'm not thinking Super Bowl for Detroit, but the arrow is pointing straight up. They are tough. They are very tough.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you heard it here. A little 6 minutes, 6,
Mm-hmm.
7 minutes of free stuff. Well, look, man, Mikey,
Mm-hmm.
and I got it right this time. I'll tell you what, we're gonna do this again, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna come back and have this because I want to hear how your business is going. I want to hear how that you've taken 1% and you've taken the next, whatever leap you're gonna take this year. I can see it. Like the names you mentioned, your mentors, just how you're looking at this. This is going to be phenomenal. So thanks for coming on, man. This has been fun. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to follow you. If you're not, yet hooked up with Mikey, where can they find you, man? What's your website and where can they
Everywhere.
find you?
Everywhere, man. LinkedIn is probably where I'm most active. The website itself is just basementbrewedff.com. But I'm over on Twitter, YouTube, podcasts, like wherever you hang out,
Podcast.
I probably hang out there. Yeah. I shouldn't, I haven't done it in a long time.
We'll get there. That's all right.
Turns out there's only 24 hours in a day.
Dude, trust me, I hear you right now. In fact, heck, I gotta, my next is coming. Well, look, Mikey, thank you, and to everybody listening, I hope you enjoyed this. This was unique. This is every time I do this, I learn something. I hope you guys learn something. And Mikey, man, again, thanks for your time. I know there's only 24 hours, so thanks for giving me 45 minutes, man.
No, thanks for having me on, man. I know I mentioned earlier in the year that I wanted to hop on more shows and more pods, so I really appreciate you giving me some time to hop on and chat here. It's fun to tell the story, so I appreciate you giving
100%, man. Basement Brewed Fantasy Football, Basement Brewed FF. Go check Mikey out. Everybody else, be safe out there.
Thanks, guys.